If you're wondering where I've been for the last month and a half, in bed sick with the Rona, and then dealing with the after effects of that. Anyway, some time ago on my Patreon Discord server, someone mentioned something that kind of piqued my interest. They mentioned that they and a friend were watching the Barbie movie and how it was kind of dinging some bells relating to disability. So I took that, stuck it behind my ear, and now here we are. The Barbie movie is, first and foremost, fun, colorful, and heartfelt. It's a movie that focuses a lot on growing up and discovering that the world isn't perfect. It talks about how being a woman in today's society is hard, but it also spares a moment to point out how the patriarchy also traps men in little societal boxes of acceptability. Despite all of that, its feminism is very basic intro to feminism type stuff. It's nothing particularly new or groundbreaking, which makes the fact that it lit the entire right wing of the internet on fire for a few weeks even funnier to me. But I'm not here to rehash what we've probably heard a million times over, no matter how funny it is to watch Ben Shapiro throw a tantrum over the Pink Doll movie. There are, 100 other videos you could watch on why Barbie's feminism isn't that deep, and at the end of the day, that's not really what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to take this movie and analyze it from my own trans-disabled perspective and see what I can glean from that. So I guess I kind of am touching on its lackluster intersectionality, but only by coincidence. To start this conversation, I'm going to talk about the thing that kickstarts the entire plot of the movie. The concept of a Barbie malfunctioning. This is already a concept that seems ripe for disability metaphors. I mean, there's the baseline of how a Barbie is supposed to function, and then there's Barbies who don't. I've gotta be honest, for the first, quarter of this movie, I was relating to stereotypical Barbie a lot. The most notable moment being the one where her feet fall out of that iconic Barbie pose into just how regular human feet work. She falls off her dream house instead of floating elegantly, she's got bad breath, her morning isn't perfect, and so on. Obviously, some of those are just regular human things, but the feet and the floating are things demonstrated to be part of what defines an able-bodied Barbie. In fact, the feet affect her so badly she begins stumbling when she walks, and when she steps out of her shoes on the beach, she just collapses. This moment in particular hit a very resonant chord with me because if you don't know, I have EDSH, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome hypermobile type. In short, my joints are absolute hot garbage, but I also have times when my body just gives up on me in general. I just won't be able to move for 10 to 15 minutes. Sometimes my whole body, sometimes just part of it. We're not entirely sure if it's connected to the EDS, but for now that's the best guess I've gotten from the doctors. These days I can usually feel when an episode is coming on, but as a kid, I have some vivid memories of times my legs just gave out under me and sent me toppling to the ground. Luckily, it never happened around my peers, but the embarrassment that Barbie feels here, it's real. And her fear of judgment is proven to be perfectly rational when the sight of her now flat feet provokes nausea and disgust from her friends. This is kind of messed up, right? I'm not the only one who sees that this isn't a great reaction to have when your friend comes to you with a medical problem. Anyway, Barbie's friends immediately tell her to go to Weird Barbie to get fixed. And this is where we're gonna take a moment to veer off from stereotypical Barbie and talk about weird Barbie. From what I can gather, I'm in the minority of kids who played with Barbies, because I never had one of these. You know, that Barbie with the choppy haircut, marker on her face, and joints that kinda creak because she's been played with too vigorously. Yeah, I never did that. Maybe because I was a kid who cut and let my hair grow in a cycle, because I was never fully happy with it, and I knew if I cut a Barbie's hair, it'd never grow back. That if I ended up regretting what I'd done, I'd regret it forever. Regardless, I am aware of the concept of a weird Barbie, and I like how this movie handled her. She's the social outcast living on a hill outside the main bulk of Barbieland. She's rejected by the normal Barbies, but they still need her. Whenever one of them experiences a malfunction, they go to her and she fixes it for them. Honestly, the way they all treat her with such disgust, but still demand that she help them when they've got a problem, very relatable to a lot of marginalized experiences. It's a little unfortunate that, because she's not the main character and the movie only had so much time, we don't actually get to see her grow to embrace her weirdness and begin to own it. She just experiences a glow-up off-screen. Speaking of returning, Weird Barbie sends stereotypical Barbie out into the real world to try and fix the rift between, so she can stop experiencing all these new weird uncomfortable things. And this is where the disability metaphor kind of begins to fall apart, because this movie isn't about disability, and the fact that its first roughly quarter can be very relatable to disabled people is probably a complete coincidence. However, one thing I think is kind of interesting to still look at in this light is the ending. After Barbieland's been saved, and the Kens have achieved a modicum of better representation, Barbie is presented with a choice by the ghost of her creator. She can either go back to being stereotypical Barbie, or she can be human, with all the ups and downs that entails, including a mortal lifespan. And she does become human. Barbara steps away from the plastic life she'd lived up until that point, and into the real world for good. Yes, she becomes an able-bodied human, but from where she started, this is kind of like someone embracing and learning to live with their disability. Kind of, if you squint. There's also something extremely trans about the whole scene where Barbie is in that last stage between stereotypical Barbie and Barbara Handler.
So being human's not something I need to ask for or even want? It's something that I just discover I am?
But at the end of the day, that probably isn't the reading I'm supposed to get here. Not that that really matters in the grand scheme of things. This is why we have concepts like Death of the Author. In a way that I'm completely sure wasn't intentional, this movie kind of also serves to highlight the tokenism in doll lines like Barbie. There are 1,000,001 able-bodied, conventionally attractive Barbies parading around Barbieland, just like there are hundreds of dolls just like them. There is one fat Barbie, one Barbie played by a trans woman, and one disabled Barbie. Only 2 out of the 3 have speaking roles. Of course, the Barbie played by Sharon Bruni is more than just fat, and the Barbie played by Hari Nef isn't even necessarily trans. I mean, logistically, how would she be unless that was part of her lore as a doll? Barbieland is extremely rigid in its gendered society. There's no room for fluidity or experimentation here. If anything, a Ken starting to feel like maybe they're not supposed to be a Ken would be more likely to be sent to Weird Barbie then heard out and accepted. And Mattel definitely hasn't released a Barbie who's just trans without it being based on a real person, so it's not part of her official lore either. And the one disabled Barbie? They're in the dance scene to show that we're inclusive, never speaks a word, and is never seen again. It falls on the shoulders of these women to represent the entirety of their communities within this film. Just like in most doll lines, if there are even any plus-size dolls, it's probably just gonna be the one. Same for disabled dolls, though if you're lucky you might get a couple different types of disabilities represented. And for the trans dolls, just forget it. I can think of like 2 off the top of my head, the Laverne Cox Barbie and Gen 3 Frankie Stein. Again, I'm sure this wasn't intentional, because it's not exactly a good look for Mattel, but it is a moment of honesty in the film that I wasn't expecting, even though they never stopped to acknowledge it. On the whole, I enjoyed this film. It didn't have to be groundbreaking to be sincere, and I think it pulled that off at least. Despite being backed by a giant company that's using it to market their toys, it's obvious to me that the people who actually worked on this movie were passionate about it. And good God, the set decoration. The costuming. Truly immaculate stuff, honestly. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, consider liking it and maybe subscribing. And a massive thank you to the Entmoot, Pastel Pink Firefox. I will be back here Thursday after next. Bye!